Okay. Hey, I just want to welcome everybody here to the call and just let you know that, this is our fifth week, our fifth call session here. And I just want to thank everybody that has come here each and every night. And each week we get a few more people each week joining us. And our listenership is also growing, and along with the people that are following us via the recordings and everything else. So I just kind of want to start here and just kind of let you know that what we're talking about here is something that I have personal experience with in my own life. I over the past month or so, I've talked to a few people, and also over the past several years, I've also talked to people. And really, it's the question here: have you ever had to be strong for somebody else, only to feel that maybe you're alone in your grief? Um, that I kind of like this picture because I talk a lot about coming out of the fog, and with the fog in the background, kind of signifies you've rose up, you're outside the fog, you feel things may be a little bit clearer in your life, but you know you feel very alone where you are. And generally when I'm talking with somebody, I'm talking with somebody who's, I would say, we're at least 1 to 2 years into our grief, into our journey, if not longer, 5, 10, 20 years later, and we find ourselves really feeling lost, feeling that, that something in life just isn't right. It's not clicking on all cylinders, as I like to say. But I think a lot of people can relate to this. They've had to feel that they've had to be strong for somebody else. Uh, I have a tendency, well, obviously, I'm a man or a male, as a father and a husband. Our job in the household is, it's kind of a stereotype, but we're supposed to be strong, hold it together, do all these things, not show emotion, and not talk about it, not do anything, just, go to work, pay the bills, take care of the family, provide a home, do the things that we're supposed to do. Wives and mothers, they're the emotional ones. They're the ones that, kind of, run the household. They also have a job. They also take care of the family. And, it's a 24/7 job for both parents in a lot of cases. But, you may even be taking care of in-laws and grandparents and whatever, other family members or friends also. But something happens, and one of your loved ones leaves. And as I was talking about in a few weeks ago, it's kind of like when the life is just torn away from you. It's like they're part of your soul, and it's ripped away. And we find this more, or at least I find it more when somebody is, it's more of a sudden death. It's more of a sudden thing where somebody has been torn away from you. My father had cancer and passed away a few years ago, but he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, was given less than a year to live, and he lived for almost 18 months to 2 years. But he was in his mid 80s. Yeah, it's tough and it's hard, but it's a lot different than. This is my personal feeling, so I don't want to offend anybody, but it's a lot different than when you lose a child. When my daughter was 3 years old. And I'm going to kind of share some things because I'm going to let you know right now, I was not the strong one in this relationship, okay? But I saw it. And I've worked with other people, and I've talked with other people that um, saw this. So so let's go on here. So let me ask you the question here. Do we feel that we are holding everything together? I like this picture, that you're the strongest link, or you could be the weakest link in the chain. So it's kind of like, you have to be the strong one. You have to be that strong link, and you're trying to hold everything together. And we don't want to appear, and we don't want to look like we're the weak one here. We're not, we're the weak person, and we're the one not able to keep it together. And, so I really like this picture because it really gets to the crux of this. And this is something that hits home with me when I talk about, my ex-wife. she, didn't cry. She didn't show emotion. There was a lot of things that she didn't do. So it was something that really, she had to hold it together. And in many cases, the person who feels like they're having to be the strong one is really being strong for everybody else. They're trying to keep everything together. They're trying to keep the household, the family, the relationships, and trying to make sure everything is held together tight. And sometimes, that's a lot of pressure on an individual, on anybody. And I think it's important to understand that, when we are trying to be strong, that I want to give you something to think about. Really, who are you being strong for? I think a lot of us would say we're being strong for, in my ex-wife's case, she would say she's being strong for me. I would say I was trying to be strong for my daughter. She was 8 years old at the time when her sister passed away. I was trying to, be strong for just, my business and other things like that. But, ultimately it's so hard to hold all that together. As time goes by, you begin to ask, why don't I feel better than I do? You still are stuck. You're stuck in your grief. You're stuck right there. So it's kind of like it's like well, let me share something with you. Here not too long ago, there was a interview on our local news station where somebody was talking about it was a shooting where a child, I think he was 15 years old, was shot and killed. He was in a car. He was not the intended target, but a stray bullet had penetrated the vehicle and killed him. And they were interviewing the mother 5 weeks after this, 5 months after this had happened. And with that being said, 5 months later, they interview her, and she makes a comment. She says, "I thought I would be doing better than what I'm doing." That made me a little angry, because not so much mad at her, but asking the question, what made her think that she would be doing better 5 months, let alone the tragic accident that had taken place? So why would she be doing better? I couldn't quite understand that. I just didn't quite understand why that was the case. And so, that was something that I really, really struggled with. I just, was like, I didn't really get it. I didn't know why. So, with that being said, in 5 months, I think anybody that has lived through a situation of a loss like this, we know 5 months is not enough time to even begin to think that you're going to be better. But some of us wake up a year, 2 years, 5 years, maybe it's 10, 20 years or more, and we begin and we feel we should be doing better than we really are. The rest of the world is moving on. People's lives are back to normal, and your life is not. And you begin to ask yourself the question, why? And I really feel that a lot of times people are holding up the home, trying to hold everything together and be strong during that period of time that they really need to be focused on grieving. And I think it's important towards your progression and finding out why, so we can put these things behind us so we can begin to focus on the future. And all of a sudden you wake up one day, okay, and your friends, your family, co-workers, whoever it is, people that you really counted on to be there for you when maybe you have that day or that particular time in your day that you really need them, and they're not there for you. Okay, I want to ask you the question, why is that? Okay, why is that? Why are they not there? And I can't answer that. I don't know why they're not there. I don't, but the only thing I can do is speak about my own experience, okay, what happened with me. And I feel that it's probably pretty common situation that people will run into why they're not there. And that would be, for an example, in my situation, I was a very open person. I talked about it, okay? Even years later, I had no problem talking about it. And in many cases, it was uncomfortable for those people. They didn't know what to say to me. They didn't know how to handle what I'm saying. Even now, 23, 24 years later, I have family members and people thinking, get over it. Put this behind you. This is not healthy. What you are doing is just totally not healthy. They don't get it. Okay? They don't understand. They don't get it. They don't walk in my shoes. They never, until they do. And God only knows I never would wish this on anybody, but they will never really understand what I have gone through. Just the same as what you have gone through. But the thing about it is we wake up, and years down the road, later in life, we want our friends to be there. But here's the thing. Their life has really moved on. Our life has not, because going back to that slide where we're holding those chains, we're trying to keep everything together. And I really believe this, that ultimately what we want is we want life to be the same the day before my daughter was taken away. I want my life to be the same. One of the things I always said to people when I would talk with them, I'm not the same person I was 10 years, 20 years, 24 years ago. And I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why I wasn't the same person. But for somebody who has gone through the emotion where they have to be strong, they don't go, they might be strong for a year, 2, 3 years. They don't spend the time and do the work, the initial, going through the anger, going through all the bargaining, going through the depression, or they get stuck in one of those, stages of grief. And they don't move on to acceptance. Moving on to acceptance and forgiveness of yourself for our own guilts and our own wrongdoings that we feel, but understanding the biggest thing here is understand that the lies that we tell ourselves become true in our mind. And so I'm telling myself I have to be strong. And I'm going to share a little bit of story that my daughter shared with me, because I think it's very ironic. And I think it'll really kind of explain, what I'm talking about here. So, here's the thing. You feel so alone, okay? I know just from my own experience, what has happened? Life has stopped. I mean, just as far as your situation. I have lost so much more. And this is a big one. And what do I have to do to get my life back? Okay? Because we were being strong for everybody or for somebody, and in some cases, really, if we cut down to it, we're trying to be strong for ourselves. It's really kind of a mechanism that our body, our mind, our brain will do to protect us. It's kind of like when you go into shock. It's going to put a blanket. It's going to keep you warm. It's going to try to comfort you. It's going to try to keep you. It's going to try to protect you. And so in turn, we become strong, so we don't face all these, this tidal wave of emotions that, many people face. But, we're going to face them some point in time. That's what I'm getting at, okay? We're going to have to face these things down the road. The problem is we have to face them down the road, so many people have moved on, okay? And so, that's really what, why we feel alone, and that's really what has happened. But life has stopped, okay? And this is, and when I say life has stopped, life hasn't just stopped. It's just we haven't progressed in life. I went 20 years, switched businesses, switched jobs, did this, went through a divorce, fell out of relationships with my children, and then we come back together as a family. Totally just dumped all my friends, or they dumped me. I don't know which one. It really doesn't matter. But to me, I started chasing other things because I didn't know what I was chasing. But here's the thing. I lost so much more. And I think we all do. And, we lose a loved one, a child, a family member, and they're, for whatever reason, and we're lost. And then the emotion, the grief that we feel, and it is an emotion. It can be very destructive. for me, 8 years later, my wife came home and told me she didn't love me. Um, it was easy to blame that, things like on communication, relationships, we just grew apart, whatever it was. But we both grieved so differently. I was much open. She wasn't. She was trying to be strong because I was weak, whatever the case was, okay? But we went separate ways. We didn't handle that right. But I also, lost, besides my daughter, my oldest daughter, which would have been her sister, was there. She grew up before my eyes, and I missed so much of that experience because of all the other problems and all the other things that grief brought into my life. Okay? But ultimately, here's the thing. It's just, remember I said, watch what we say, because the lies that we tell ourselves will become true. When I say what grief brought into my life, grief was there, but these were decisions I made. I could have made different decisions, okay? I could have made different decisions where outcomes would have been different. Simple as that. But because of grief, I was in that fog. I was lost. I didn't know what to do. So I lost so much more. I lost a house. I lost my business. I gave it up. I went into another business, gave that up, did this and chased jobs, quit jobs, and it's just like I was chasing everything except what I really, really wanted. Okay, and so what do you have to do? Okay, and we'll get it. We'll touch on that a little bit later here in a little bit. What do you have to do? But I kind of like this slide because it looks like the lady's actually saying who, and the little baby looking up. But who are you being strong for? Okay, this is really, and I think it's easy to say. My ex-wife saying she was being strong for me, okay, because I was weak and I was an emotional. Or for me, I was trying to be strong for my daughter or my mother and father or somebody else in the family, or for my wife. Doesn't matter. But ask yourself the question: who are you trying to be strong? And then who is really hurting here? Okay, everybody's hurting, but a lot of times those of us that are being strong are hurting so badly that we have to be strong for somebody else. So that way, we can take our focus and our energy off of how we're feeling and put it onto somebody else. And we don't deal with these emotions. Like I said, it's really kind of a coping mechanism. It's a process that we may do to help protect ourselves. But I think it's a real important thing to understand because, when I work with somebody, I want somebody to get a particular result. So I need to, kind of understand this. And, there was a lady that I was working with here just about 3 weeks ago. She shared with me that was not an adopted child, but it was a child that she claims it was like an adopted child, and that came into her home, and she was kind of the primary caretaker, and the child died. She went through grief just like any other parent would have, whereas the actual mother was kind of like comatose, I guess, the way she put it, and but it caused a ripple effect, and her own children disowned her. Her own children disowned her. When she shared her story to me, it was very painful because not only did she lose this child that she was kind of taking care of and raising, but she also lost her other children because her other children were grieving, but she was trying to protect, be strong for them, but they felt like, they didn't understand why their mother was feeling the way they did about her when, she wasn't her real daughter. And now here it is 8 years later, and she is trying to get these relationships back. And because there's grandchildren now, there's other things in her life and that she's not able to do. And it's, but she is still having to deal with a lot of this grief, and that's where the problem's coming from, because the children don't understand that she really, as she's holding on to this grief that she has for a child, that's over 8 years ago, that really wasn't her biological child, but she had bonded and she feels as it was her biological child. So that's kind of where I'm coming from there. So it's a tough situation. It's one that I'm not able to work with her in this situation, just because there's too many unresolved issues. And when there's too many unresolved issues, it's a choice that I have to make, because when I work with somebody, it's more about getting result, and really it's not. I mean, we can repair relationships, but there's more work to be done here, that she needs. That, not saying that we can't work together down the road, but there's more work that needs to be done on her part, to get beyond, to move into the realm of acceptance and get rid of the guilt feelings that she may have. But here's the thing: who you're really hurting? You're hurting you. Okay, you're in the fog. It's like, and this is where I'm going to kind of share the story about my daughter, because we think we're behind the walls. Okay. And people, so when I go behind the wall, I'm going to get emotional when nobody can see me, and I'm going to sit there and not deal with the problem, not deal with everything. And that is probably, we think nobody sees us, nobody hears us, okay, and we can, basically bawl our eyes out. We cry, we feel emotion. But we do it by ourselves. And sometimes, I'm not going to say that's bad, but but here's the thing. And, we would do these things behind the walls, and this situation here, so let me tell you a story about my daughter. And this was just recently. This is kind of why I decided to speak about this topic, because my daughter's in her 30s. She has 3 children. She's married, and very healthy family, and a great mother. I am so proud of the mother that she's become. But I'm not going to take take credit for that, or her mother. She's come out of a very bad situation, with her because of her sister, because of her mother's and my divorce, and she's really just. She is a diamond in the rough. So let me just say that. So Talia, if you're listening, or if you listen to the recording, I love you, and you're awesome, and you got a great future. But anyways, she shared with me this, and this picture really hit home. Now, this is not my picture. This is just a stock photo, but it really kind of says. She says she remembers walking by her sister's bedroom. And she says, I know Mom was always the strong one. Mom was always the one that had to be strong. Mom didn't really show emotion. She didn't show a lot, in front of me. But she says, I would walk by the bedroom, and Mom would be sitting on Kelsey's bed holding her Pooh Bear and staring at the floor and kind of with a blank look on her face. Okay? And she says, and I knew Mom was hurting. But, she says, I tried to... if I had tried to talk with Mom, she wouldn't talk to me. If I, didn't, so I would just walk by the room and just kind of pretend I didn't see it. Now, understand this: my daughter was 8 years old at the time. Okay. So, when we're being strong, we're trying to protect somebody. And in this case, she's trying to protect me and her daughter. And but I saw the same picture that my daughter was explaining to me. Matter of fact, I've got a photograph of it. I took a picture with the camera of her sitting there on the bed. That was 24 years ago. I can't tell you why I did it, but I did. So it's kind of like, wow, I don't know how else to say it. It's one of those things that I just did it, and it wasn't just a one-time incident. I mean, I did it too. I would go in the room and hold the teddy bear. Matter of fact, I have the Pooh Bear upstairs. I mean, the guy needs a bath, something terribly, but I'm afraid if I bathe him and clean him, he'll fall apart. He's 25-year-old Pooh Bear. But the Winnie for those of you if you're not sure, Pooh Bear is Winnie the Pooh. Okay, the one from the Winnie the Pooh books and everything with the honey Piglet and all that. And anyways, kind of getting off on another story there, I guess. Anyways, but she says, I knew you guys were hurting, and she says, even though you tried to hide it from me, it didn't do any good. And so, I'm not a psychologist, not a therapist or a counselor. I can only imagine that's probably not a healthy thing in this case, for my ex-wife. It wasn't a healthy thing for my daughter. My daughter's in her 30s, 8 years old. She remembers that just like it was yesterday. And, we're the only creatures on this earth that, I said this, I think, a few weeks ago in a call or 4 weeks ago. We're the only creatures in this earth that actually can go back in time. And if I ask you to think of a particular thing in the past that you remember, you can vividly remember something, and it's usually something that's traumatic or has a lot of emotion attached to it. And you can recall that very simple. And you can probably go all the way back to your youngest age. And as I shared, I think it was the first week, I shared that it was with me and my, I think I was like a year and a half old, and my mother put me, in diapers or something. I crawled around on the ground going goo 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 goo, kind of acting like a baby or whatever. And or maybe I was a little older than a year and a half. I don't really remember, but it was the actual age. But I was very young, and because she was trying to potty train me, and I just didn't do a very good job. So she said, if you're going to behave like a baby, I'm going to treat you like one. So that has stuck with me, good or bad. I think it worked. I got potty trained. So anyways, but see, that was something with my daughter. So, when you're trying to be strong, so, I want to kind of bring this up because I want to say, hey, this is something that's important down the road, because, if you're 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years later and you're understanding, maybe this is something that you can look at, that you can begin to say, hey, yeah, I remember trying to be strong and trying to protect somebody and hold things together. And, one of the things that my ex-wife and I try to do is hold our marriage together. And it didn't work. I mean, we knew what the odds were of our marriage, number one, surviving the death of a child. But it didn't work. It didn't stay together. So keep that in mind. As you kind of work through this process a little bit, and you kind of want to ask yourself some questions. And so that question is, who was you really being strong for? And in many cases, you'll find out that they knew everything, and you didn't keep anything from them whatsoever. And in turn, you probably did more harm to yourself, I think, because you didn't process things at that time, and now you're having to deal with some of these issues now. I talk about, we really have a broken heart, and my heart is still broken. Okay, it's the emotional scars. There's a scar there. I mean, it's been ripped apart, and it will always be that way. I talk about this like taking an envelope and ripping an envelope apart. If you took a letter opener, cut it open, it's a nice smooth cut. But if you stick your finger in it and rip down the side, it's going to be very jagged, very rough. That's like somebody being ripped away from you and being torn away. It's very rough. It's a very tough situation. I have a client that I've been talking with and working with is her son. Her son is missing, and she, and it's amazing. This is why I'm kind of hesitating, because it's what's being told to her, and it floors me that the police would say things like this and tell a parent that, well, they were either kidnapped or they're dead. And it's kind of like just nonchalant, matter of fact. And every parent that I've ever talked with in a situation like that, or who has shared their story with me, that is a common answer. It's almost like it's like out of page what page 4 of the book, in a situation of a missing child, when it comes years or a decade or so later down the road. This person's grief is so much different than mine. How do you begin to mend a broken heart when there's nothing to put it back together with? There's not an answer. There's not a funeral. There's not a body. There's not anything. There's just emptiness, really. And so their heart is broken also, but their heart has just been. It's not just broken; it's been shattered. Okay, but it also can be mended. And the biggest thing is I like to. When I worked in the banking and financial industry, I used to always talk about a financial situation, okay? And that is, our house, the house that we live in, is only as strong as the foundation. And I know if you build homes, you build anything like that, you understand, or everybody knows, the foundation is what's built first. In a financial plan, you put a foundation down first. In life, if we put a foundation down in our life, we'll have a good life. In a relationship, if we set a good foundation in relationships, then we can build the relationship on top of a sound foundation. And there's trust. There's all these things that go in with it. And so to be able to mend a broken heart, it's, we have to go back and rebuild that foundation all over again. And we begin to, and we have to start by understanding, where have we been, and going back and maybe looking at those time frames that we remember when we were young and doing these things. And, and understanding who we really, really are down into the core of who we are, okay? And we can begin to mend, our hearts by going from that point and moving forward. So I like to say this: we're under construction all over again, okay? Our lives are under construction. We were strong, but now if we're under construction, we want to build a solid foundation so we can have a healthy life. And so in order to do a solid foundation with concrete, you've got rebar, you've got everything, all this reinforcement that goes into the foundation to make it a solid foundation so something doesn't come in and tear it back down again. Okay? Grief, so many years later, will do exactly that. It will eat away at the foundation of your innermost being and tear it down, and you will come down crumbling, and you're not able to begin to glue it back together, to patch it up, and it's kind of like, and that's why when people tell me I just learned to cope, well, you know what, I can learn to kind of put the foundation back together, but if that's all I can do and I can't build upon that foundation because it's not strong enough, then I can't go any higher. Okay, that's the same thing in life. I can't go any higher than where I am right there. At some point in time, once I stop growing, I'm dying. The growth, you always have to be focused on the growth. But here's the thing. If I was being strong, if the shoe was on the other foot and I was being strong for my ex-wife, and now I couldn't be here talking and I can't really verbalize and talk about the situation, then I haven't really dealt with it. Now, I'm not saying everybody can talk about it, but you've got to get to the point where you can verbalize your feelings, and not only verbalize your feelings, but you can sit down with somebody else and listen to their story and be able to listen to it and not, and get strength from that. Okay, you can get strength. There's power. What's the saying? There's power in numbers. But as we build this foundation, we can build. I can build the foundation by myself, or I can build that foundation with, one person at a time, or I can build it with hundreds and thousands of people at a time. And that's why I have my program. It's called Empowering Millions. But we can work together to build a solid foundation, to be able to build our life and build our lives back up and find our purpose and find what exactly it is that we're looking for. Okay, I hope some of this makes sense. This topic, it's not it's not a great topic, and from the standpoint of a lot of things, but it's an important topic because there's two types of people out there: ones that feel they have to be strong, and the ones that feel they were not strong. Okay, and if you were to stand them next to each other, they look totally different. Their stories can be the same or very similar, but their outcomes would be polar opposite. Okay, and the only thing I can take up, because I've talked with so many people, when I find out that there's one person that is really moving on and have done so well with their grief through their loss, and then you have one that doesn't, a lot of times I find out that there's through their story process and writing their story and learning more about their situation, I find out that they were having to be strong. They were protecting somebody, or they were protecting everybody. They felt like they had to be the strong link in the chain to hold everything together. But in the end, so much came crumbling down. The foundation fell apart because you can't, it's like cement. If you can have the sand and the gravel and you put everything together, but if you don't add the cement to that, it doesn't stay together. And so, you have to be the glue or the cement, but sometimes you can't be all things to all people. And you have to tend to yourself. You have to take time for yourself. But you have to ask yourself these three questions. The first question is, where have you been? Where are you today, right now? Okay? You might turn around and say something sarcastic and say, well, I'm sitting here watching your video or listening to you. Okay? But let's paint a bigger picture than that. Okay? And then you have to answer the question, where are you going? And that's a tough one to ask when you feel like your life is stuck and you feel like things are stacked against you. But I want you to understand that they're not stacked against you, okay? That's just you saying they're stacked against you. Remember, the lies that we tell ourselves, we will begin to believe them, okay? And they will become true in our mind, okay? And we will act out on those lies as if they were true, okay? So when somebody tells you you just have to learn to cope with it, you tell them, no, I do not. I got to learn to cope, yes, but I don't have to settle with just learning how to cope. Time fixes all things. No, it does not. Okay, time can make things better, but it doesn't fix my grief. If I don't handle these situations and go into that situation and go back into that construction mode and rebuild it from the foundation up, time doesn't matter. Time will tick away, tick away, tick away. I'll get up one day and all of a sudden I'll feel like I did 10 years ago or whatever the case is. I'll wake up and I'll think that life has passed me by. That's how I felt. I went 20 plus years of my life and I said, my daughter passed away when I was like, 31, I think. I was like 30 or 31 years old. I'm 55 now, so 24, so yeah, about 31, 1993. I'm not going to go do the math, but that sounds about right. I was 31 years old, and 20 years later, when I was 51, I thought to myself, I've wasted my life. It's gone. Moved to retirement, and might as well just go ahead and, I own my cemetery plot, might as well go ahead and pay for my prearranged funeral plan, because the next step's going to be to the grave. And you know what? I don't feel that way. And I lived so much. I missed a lot of living during that period of time. I'm not going to, debate that. But I learned so much. And I want to share one thing with you, because this really goes to the core, and we'll kind of end out here. But when I was 14 years old, my soccer coach in high school shared with me when, 8th grade, freshman year, I mean, he taught me how to win, to go and practice and be the best. I mean, he really caused me to become the person I am today, to have the work ethic that I have today, to put the drive and the determination to get up at 5 in the morning, check my emails, do the things I have to do, respond to people, get up, do things, plan the day, go through the whole entire day, and to turn around and be sitting here at 9 o'clock at night, going into the day and having calls with potential clients, or just talking with people, helping them through situations, and working with clients, writing articles and recording videos, doing whatever it is I'm doing, creating PowerPoints, and I turn around and do it all day long, and I turn around and can't wait to get up tomorrow morning and do it again, because here's why. He taught me, he said, if I could teach you one thing, and you go and become a soccer coach, and you teach that particular technique or something, and you teach them what I taught you, and then they teach somebody else, and they go on, and I coached high school ball, and I've done a lot of these things, and I see the players that I've coached are now, teaching school, they have kids of their own, and I see it happening. What he told me is coming true, because there's part of him that lives through me. His name was Coach Flynn. I remember him like he was yesterday. And now, the people that I've coached don't know him from Adam. But the point of it is his techniques, or what I've learned from him, are living in them now, and they're now teaching it. And all I did was apply that to this process here, and I teach somebody else, and my daughter now is living through me and living through you, because you're hearing the story. And if you apply any of these things and they begin to click, I may never know it, but how powerful is that? I mean, that just gets my hair on the back of my neck standing up, and I can't wait to do this again tomorrow, because that's my daughter. Yeah, my daughter had to die to make that happen, and that's bad, but at the same time, we want something good to come out of a tragedy, do we not? So why not have it be this, or I can sit and stare at the stars until the day I die and wonder why. Okay? Or I can turn around and create something and feel good about what it is I'm doing, because this is what my daughter wants me to do. She just wants me to be happy. She wants me to live a full life. She wants me to be able to walk up to her and say, Dad, you were awesome. Mom, you were awesome. I was there. I watched you through that whole time. Yeah, you guys really screwed it up in the beginning, and you made a mess of things. If I could have come down there and kicked you in the ass, I would have done it. I mean, I could just hear her now. But but she's proud of me. She's happy with the direction. She's leading me. These ideas just didn't come into my head by myself. I'm not that smart, and I'm not that good. Okay, there's other reasons why it's there, why it's here, and why I'm still under construction. You're under construction. Why this whole process is under construction. But it's like we are a team, whether or not you believe that or not. You're here listening to this because there's a reason why you're here. End of story. You are part of this team, whether or not you want to be or not. You weren't drafted. You weren't picked. Circumstances and life situations put you on this team without your approval, but you're here. So let's go win. We have a winning team. We will put a winning plan together. We will practice, and then when it comes game time, we're going to go out that door and we're going to go win, because we're going to win because we're going to turn around and make somebody else's life better, and in turn my life's going to be better, and I'm going to get up tomorrow, and I cannot wait till I can do this all again, and I have goosebumps and hair standing up on me right now, because this just pumps me up. So I can go on for hours like this, but I don't really want to bore you. So I know we had several people on the call here, so it looks like a few may have dropped off and come back on and whatnot. I don't see any questions in the chat box at this present time. I don't know if we have any questions. I know I kind of ran out and rambled on and kind of just said a lot of stuff. So I trust and hope that you have got some good information here. If you are on the phone line, I see that we do have a couple people, I think 3 people on the phone line. If you have a question, you can hit *6, come out and go ahead and do that. If you are on the computer, you can actually click on the little people icon there, and it'll drop down an attendee list box, which will show you and me. We can click, we can click that, and we can at that point in time you can come out and share or ask your question, or just put it in the chat box. So, but I will just kind of just talk here for another couple minutes, for another minute or so. Nobody's actually saying anything, so, and that's fine. I know I rambled on a little bit longer here tonight. I shared a little bit more. I get very passionate about this. This is very passionate. It's very there are so many people that are hurting that don't have to be, and they just need direction. They just need help. They need the support system. They need things there that may not be always there for them. And, so, I just want to pass that on to you, and I hope that the little bit that I share helps you. I hope you realize that, you don't have to be the strong person. You can be vulnerable, because being vulnerable is not bad. It's a good thing, because out of vulnerability will come strength, okay? Out of your weaknesses and your weak moments, you will learn more. You'll be so much more open to be able to learn more through that vulnerability, through that weakness, because you're going to process the information and you're going to understand it a little better. So, feel free to do that. You can email me at afathersloss@hotmail.com. You can go to afathersloss.com and you can contact me there. We've got some big things coming up here for everybody here, I'm hoping by starting in March, where we're going to put together I'm going to be putting together a membership site, and where these replays are going to be up here, but I am going to be creating some workbooks. The transcripts of these replays will also be there, so you can consume that and be able to download those and be able to utilize those to help you study or help you along the way. The other thing is I will be putting up some workbooks of each of these programs and breaking these down and taking the PowerPoint slides where you can go back and re-listen to the videos and write notes and begin to work on some of these processes. If this particular situation applies to you, then that's going to allow you to be able to do that. Some of these other things may not apply to you, so that's fine. You'll just move on, just going past that. Because part of this is what I have in my blueprint, my program, which really outlines my message, or not message, but my Empowering Millions blueprint that I have is a whole outline of things that I have where I will go much deeper into lots of different things. So I'm not sure on the topic. I've got about 4 or 5 topics that I want to speak on, and I can't do them all in one time. So I will probably be posting out there the next day or so what next week's topic is. But I'm kind of leaning towards story format, and maybe something, because I've had a few people ask me about that, and they would like to know a little bit more about story. And that's an area that in my 7 steps I talk about story and then rewriting your story. And so that's an area that a lot of people kind of get stuck in, and because part of that is really peeling back the layers. That's the part that's the hardest part of the whole process, because we can begin to get we're going to uncover some emotion. We're going to uncover some things that may not even have to do with your grief. That may go back, but in the process, it's going to help uncover some things that we're going to find our passion. We're going to find our mission in life. We're going to find exactly what it is that's going to allow us to be able to sit here and talk to somebody and have the goosebumps stand up on the back of your neck because you feel so powerful about this that it's just like you get this cold chill and you just know that you are onto something, just like I am. And so from that standpoint, I will help you find that. Make sense? With that being said, just checking my list. I don't see any questions at all. Nobody's come out and talked, which is fine. So we will go ahead and end this recording right now. And if you want to say something off the recording, I will hang on here for a minute or so, and we can chat on person if you'd like to do that. So with that being said, you guys are awesome. You have a great night. And oh, by the way, before I drop off here, because I know I have some people in Canada that also listen, and I know that I think there's a couple people here in Canada. I'm not familiar with Canada, but I think the one person I know that's here right now is above, what is it, Seattle, Washington, and so what is it, Alberta or someplace out there. I will check. I sent an email. They haven't responded back, but why I don't have a dial-in number from Canada, but I think it may be the same dial-in number for the United States. That's what somebody else told me. But I will confirm that to make sure that works and find out. So with that being said, I just wanted to put that out there on the recording at the end because I think maybe some people might find some use in that because I know sometimes the phone, hey, if you're out west, it's only 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you may be on your drive home, so the phone just makes it easier to get on and do this. So, hey, you guys are awesome. I'm going to go ahead and end this recording. So I do see something here on the chat box. There is one person that wants to chat with me off the recording. So with that being said, you guys have a great night, and I will talk to you guys later. See ya. Bye-bye.